Today, we are going to talk about some reptiles that aren't snakes. They're obviously my first love, very passionate about them, and that's what I'm going to be breeding significantly more in the future. But we're going to talk about some other ones, and we're going to start today with this little guy. He is a baby spur-thighed tortoise, or sulcata is their Latin name, and so in the reptile trade, that's what we usually refer to them as, is sulcata tortoises. These guys are the third largest species of tortoise in the world, and I know that doesn't seem like it because he's just a little one. He was born at the beginning of last year, and so he has actually grown quite a bit since we got him. They are born probably like that big, and then this is how big he's gotten. These guys aren't box turtles. They're not red-eared sliders. These are tortoises. They are the third largest tortoise in the world. Males can get over 150 pounds and live over 100 years. So we're going to have him for a while, and we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with him after we're gone. But they eat a pretty varied diet. They're found in Africa. They're in wild open grasslands. They eat a lot of grass and stuff like that, but in captivity, we can feed a variety of things. Like there's a lot of commercial formulated foods. Mazurai is a really great brand, but you can pick up a lot of things that just have a lot of grass and hardy vegetables and stuff there. But here, for the most part, we're going to talk. We mostly feed. I'm actually going to put him down. He can run around a little bit as I talk. We mostly feed a variety. Oh, hi, Speed Bump. He's mad because I have this stool in here, and he is a big boy, and they have fun little personalities of their own, because I put the stool in here where I can just kind of sit here while I'm not squatting and poop, because they poop quite a bit, because they eat quite a bit. He's just checking stuff out, and he isn't sure what's going on. But, I digress. We feed them a variety of things, like collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, winter squash, summer squash, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, pumpkin, zucchini, yellow squash. Just a lot of varieties of vegetables that are great for them as well as a multivitamin and calcium supplement. They don't need a whole lot of fruit. It's actually not great for grassland southern tortoises like this. Over here we have pinecone. Pinecone is a leopard tortoise who was surrendered to us. There are two different subspecies of leopard tortoises, northerns and southerns. Southerns get very large, almost as large as the spur-thighed or sulcata tortoise. She is a northern, so she's not going to get nearly as big as Speed Bump. Hey, Speed Bump, here, you going to come up here? You going to come up here, buddy? And I'm going to enjoy picking him up while I can, because eventually there's no way I'm going to be able to pick him up by myself. So Speed Bump, and we'll talk about pinecone a little bit. So Speed Bump is almost 4 years old. So as you can see, they grow pretty quickly compared to the little guy that we saw earlier who's running around here. He's normally not in here with these guys. We keep him in a separate enclosure. Then eventually he'll join them, because eventually we're going to have to make a large outdoor enclosure that they can have inside for the winter months, because it's Colorado, it gets really cold. It's going to be insulated and has heat and UVB lights and stuff, but outside during the warm summer months. Originally, these guys, when we first got them, were in... I'm going to put you back down, Speedy. We're in a very large aquarium, which I know sounds a little counterintuitive to what things that I've talked about in previous videos, but it worked out pretty well for them because it did give them quite a bit of floor space. It was pretty easy to clean because it was in a good spot, and it was able for me to try to control their conditions a little bit with UVB and heat bulbs in that one. But for some reason, Speed Bump is growing significantly faster than what I have done research on spur-thighed tortoises. Like, he's almost a third bigger than a lot of 3.5, 4-year-old tortoises. And so I went, okay, we're going to have to move him to something bigger. I thought we had another year or two before I would need to really get going on this. And so we decided to build this. They call them turtle boxes or turtle enclosures, but it's a melamine base, and we put up these 2x4s and just this plywood around the top when we sealed it in, and we gave this little ledge for some other species and other cages and stuff that we'll talk about in later videos. But this way it gives them more room to move around a little bit. We use straw and alfalfa hay as their bedding because they can eat that. It also helps keep their poop kind of together because these guys are constant foragers. They eat all the time. So that means they poop all the time. I'm in here cleaning every day. We actually have to keep fly paper up in the room too because there's just so many flies they get because they just poop so much. And so that's these guys aren't for a lot of people because they get so big and because they do require a little bit more attention just kind of with daily maintenance. And so that's why our little zoo here is almost a full-time job because in addition to just all the snakes, which is daily checking on them with water and everything else, because we have so many other species and they all require very specific husbandries, it does take quite a bit of time to make sure we're doing those properly so that these animals are thriving. These guys get huge, as I said before. They get almost 150 pounds and live quite a while and get very large. It's actually not great for them to live once they're adults inside because we've all seen the pictures of the sulcata like breaking through into a bathroom through drywall. That's a real picture. These guys can go through stuff, and actually you can even hear usually Speed Bump here just kind of like scratching at these walls just trying to keep going because he's just always cruising around. They're a lot more active than people really think. Okay, and we're going to talk about Pinecone. Pinecone is a rescue. She was surrendered to us because the person knew that we had Speed Bump and we were planning on getting another tortoise or two. They couldn't keep up with her needs. So because they knew that we already had them and were aware of the needs that she needed, they surrendered her to us. So as you can see, so she's a leopard tortoise, and they call them that because of this crazy pattern that they have on their shell that kind of has that leopard spotting. But as you can see, her shell is a little deformed. It's not the kind of perfect arch that you'll see on tortoises, and that's because when she was younger, she didn't get the proper needs that she needed. She either didn't have enough vitamins and varied diet and calcium. Maybe she didn't get enough UVB. Maybe she didn't get enough water. Speed Bump, don't eat my shoes. Maybe didn't get enough water to allow her to soak her shell. Okay, I'll put you back down, baby. And so that can happen. A lot of times, that deformation of the shell is called pyramiding. Speed Bump does not have pyramiding. That's just kind of what their shells look like. But a lot of times, like when you go to a zoo or something like that, they'll receive kind of these rescue tortoises that inexperienced people had. They got them when they were the size of our little guy, and they didn't give them the room, they didn't give them the varied diet, they didn't give them the vitamins and calcium and proper UVB that's required for their happiness and for their health. And so you get these things that are called pyramiding where their shells are deformed, and that's because they didn't get what was absolutely necessary. And unfortunately, that's just kind of the thing about it, because you can actually buy baby spur-thigh tortoises for like $150. And that seems, to me, kind of pretty cheap for an animal that's going to require a lot of attention, a lot of room, and a lot of time to give them a proper life to keep them healthy and happy. We do it just fine because we're aware of what is required for these things. And that's why I think that these guys can make good pets for some people, but it needs to be something that needs to be researched, that you need to know a lot about, to talk to different people who've maybe kept them before. Like when we were still thinking about that, there's another person here in town who breeds geckos a lot professionally. He has his own store, but he also has a variety of species of large giant tortoises. And so we talked to him a lot about how he keeps his, because he's had them for a number of years now. And so we talked to him, we read books, we went onto a lot of different websites and Facebook groups. I know you're just going to keep eating my shoes, aren't you, Speed Bump? And that's something that needs to happen with any species of reptile or any pet in general, is you need to do your due diligence. That's what leads to a lot of not so healthy animals, which leads to a lot of pictures on the internet, which gives this hobby kind of a bad rap, which isn't what we need. You know, it's about responsible pet ownership, and that goes for dogs, cats, or any other reptile species. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in other videos down the road. But I just wanted to show off a little bit of some non-snakes, and we're going to keep doing some other different varieties of reptiles and pets that we have here as well. But thanks for listening to my rant a little bit. I'm very prone to it, and there's going to be probably some ranty, almost speech videos down the road as I talk about things that I'm a little bit more passionate about when it comes to proper health, proper keeping and conservation of a lot of different species in the reptile trade. Once again, hope you guys found this video entertaining or at least very informative. Let me know if you have any comments, any criticisms or ideas down below. Please like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.